It's 1994. America is changing faster than anyone expected. Across the country, families are trading their station wagons for SUVs, minivans are becoming the ultimate family vehicles, and imported cars from Japan and Europe are earning a reputation for better quality, smarter engineering, and greater efficiency. The golden era of the big American sedan seems to be fading away. For decades, Detroit had dominated the roads with massive rear-wheel drive V8 powered automobiles, but now those same cars are beginning to disappear one by one. Rising fuel prices, stricter emissions regulations, changing customer preferences, and fierce foreign competition are forcing manufacturers to rethink everything they once believed about building cars. Many enthusiasts believe the days of the traditional American performance sedan are over. They think the future belongs to smaller engines, front-wheel drive, and practical transportation. But while everyone else is looking forward, Chevrolet is quietly looking back. Hidden behind the doors of General Motors is an idea that almost nobody believes will work. An idea so simple that it almost sounds ridiculous. Take one of America's biggest family sedans, install a Corvette V8 under the hood, lower the suspension, add wider tires, give it subtle styling changes, and bring back one of the most legendary names in Chevrolet history. The result would become one of the most respected American performance sedans ever built. This is the story of the 1994 to 1996 Chevrolet Impala SS. A car that arrived just before an entire era disappeared forever. But to understand why the Impala SS became such an icon, we first need to understand what the name Impala actually meant long before the 1990s. The story begins in 1958. America was experiencing one of the greatest economic booms in its history. Highways were expanding across the country, suburbs were growing, and owning a new car represented freedom, success, and optimism. Chevrolet introduced the Impala as the premium version of the Bel Air, but almost immediately it became something much bigger. Buyers loved its dramatic styling, spacious interior, and smooth V8 engines. Within just 1 year, the Impala became its own model, and over the next decade it transformed into one of the most recognizable automobiles in the United States. During the 1960s, millions of Americans grew up with an Impala sitting in their driveway. Families took vacations in them, teenagers dreamed about owning one, and hot rodders discovered that Chevrolet's V8 engines responded incredibly well to modifications. Then, in 1961, Chevrolet introduced something that would eventually become legendary, the Super Sport package. Those two simple letters, SS, stood for Super Sport, and they immediately changed the personality of the Impala. Bigger engines, sportier suspension, unique trim, and a much more aggressive image turned an already popular family sedan into something enthusiasts truly desired. Throughout the golden age of American muscle cars, the Impala SS became one of Chevrolet's performance icons. But history rarely stands still. Everything changed during the 1970s. New emissions laws, rising insurance costs, and the global oil crisis completely transformed the automotive industry. Horsepower numbers collapsed almost overnight. Large displacement engines disappeared, and manufacturers shifted their focus toward fuel economy instead of performance. As the years passed, the famous SS badge slowly faded away, and the Impala itself gradually lost the performance image it had once enjoyed. By the late 1980s, very few people associated the Impala name with excitement anymore. To younger buyers, it was simply another Chevrolet from the past. Yet inside General Motors, there were still engineers who remembered exactly what the Impala SS had once represented. They believed America hadn't stopped loving powerful rear-wheel drive sedans. They believed the industry had simply stopped building them. One of those people was John Moss, Chevrolet's chief designer and a lifelong performance enthusiast. Moss had an unusual idea. Instead of creating another flashy sports car, why not build something that looked almost ordinary? A car that didn't scream for attention. A car that could quietly blend into traffic during the day, yet completely surprise anyone foolish enough to challenge it at the next traffic light. His inspiration came from an unlikely source, the Chevrolet Caprice 9C1 police package. Police departments across America already knew something the average customer didn't. The Caprice wasn't glamorous, but underneath its conservative styling was one of the strongest and most durable platforms General Motors had ever built. Officers trusted it during high-speed pursuits. Mechanics praised its reliability. Fleet managers loved the fact that many examples could accumulate hundreds of thousands of miles with surprisingly few major problems. If it could survive years of police duty, what might happen if Chevrolet transformed that same platform into a genuine performance sedan? John Moss imagined a car that looked almost sinister. Deep black paint covered nearly every exterior surface. Bright chrome trim was eliminated wherever possible. The suspension sat noticeably lower. Massive 17-inch wheels filled the arches. The body looked wide, muscular, and confident without relying on giant spoilers or flashy graphics. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Its proportions spoke for themselves. Then came the engine. Instead of using the ordinary V8 found in the standard Caprice, Moss proposed something far more exciting. Chevrolet had recently introduced a brand new engine for the Corvette called the LT1. It represented some of the most advanced small-block engineering the company had ever developed. It was smooth, powerful, packed with torque, and perfectly suited for a large rear-wheel drive sedan. The idea seemed almost too good to be true. A Corvette-powered Caprice wearing the legendary Impala SS badge. But there was one problem. General Motors had no intention of putting such a car into production. At least, not yet. Like countless concept cars before it, the project was expected to spend a few days under bright lights at an auto show before quietly disappearing into storage forever. Nobody, not even the people who built it, could have predicted what would happen next. Because in January of 1992, when Chevrolet rolled a mysterious black sedan onto the stage at the North American International Auto Show in Detroit, something extraordinary happened. The crowds didn't simply admire it. They surrounded it. Journalists couldn't stop writing about it. Dealers immediately began asking when customers would be able to buy one. Enthusiasts flooded Chevrolet with letters, phone calls, and requests demanding that the company build the car exactly as it appeared on the show floor. For General Motors, this reaction was almost unheard of. Concept cars usually impressed people for a few days before being forgotten. This one refused to disappear. The excitement only grew stronger with every passing week, and before long, Chevrolet realized something remarkable. They hadn't just created another concept car. They had accidentally created one of the most desirable American sedans of the decade. And for the first time in many years, General Motors faced a question that would change the future of the Impala forever. What if we actually built it? General Motors had a decision to make. Building a low-volume performance sedan in the early 1990s wasn't exactly a safe business move. The American market was changing rapidly, SUVs were becoming more popular every year, and most executives believed buyers no longer wanted large rear-wheel drive sedans. But the response to the concept car was impossible to ignore. Chevrolet dealers were asking for it, journalists were praising it, and enthusiasts across the country were demanding that General Motors put the car into production. Fortunately for Chevrolet, they already had almost everything they needed. Instead of developing an entirely new platform from scratch, engineers looked at the existing B-body chassis that underpinned the Chevrolet Caprice. It wasn't the newest architecture on the market, but it had earned a reputation as one of the toughest. Taxi companies loved it because it could survive years of abuse. Police departments trusted it during high-speed pursuits. Families appreciated its spacious interior and smooth highway ride. The foundation was already there. All Chevrolet needed to do was transform that dependable full-size sedan into something enthusiasts would actually dream about owning. The engineering team began by borrowing many of the heavy-duty components from the Caprice 9C1 police package. Unlike the civilian Caprice, the police version featured upgraded cooling systems, stronger suspension components, larger sway bars, heavy-duty brakes, and countless small improvements designed to survive the harsh realities of police work. Rather than reinventing the wheel, Chevrolet simply took the strongest version of the platform and refined it even further. But everyone knew the heart of the project would be the engine. Chevrolet selected the LT1 5.7-liter V8, an engine that had already impressed the automotive world in the Corvette. Although it shared its displacement with earlier small-block Chevrolets, the LT1 was a thoroughly modern design for its time. It featured reverse-flow cooling, a higher compression ratio, electronic fuel injection, and a broad torque curve that made it feel effortless in everyday driving. In the Corvette it produced 300 horsepower, but engineers knew the Impala SS had a different mission. This wasn't a lightweight sports car built for racetracks. It was a full-size performance sedan designed to deliver smooth, reliable power every single day. To better suit that role, the engine received a revised calibration, different exhaust routing, and a slightly lower output of 260 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque. On paper, some enthusiasts questioned the decision. 40 fewer horsepower didn't sound very exciting. But numbers rarely tell the whole story. What made the LT1 special wasn't simply its peak horsepower. It was the way it delivered its power. Almost the moment you touched the accelerator, the engine produced a wave of torque that effortlessly pushed the big sedan forward. Around town, it barely needed to rev. On the highway, passing slower traffic required little more than a gentle squeeze of the throttle. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't frantic. It was confident. Chevrolet paired the LT1 with the electronically controlled 4L60E 4-speed automatic transmission. Once again, this wasn't a car trying to imitate European sports sedans. There was no manual gearbox because Chevrolet understood exactly who the customer was. Most buyers wanted effortless cruising during the week and effortless acceleration whenever the road opened up. The transmission shifted smoothly during normal driving but became noticeably firmer under hard acceleration, giving the Impala a surprisingly athletic personality despite its size. Engineers didn't stop with the powertrain. The suspension was lowered by more than an inch compared to the standard Caprice, significantly reducing body roll while giving the car a much more aggressive stance. New springs, revised shock absorbers, thicker anti-roll bars, and performance-oriented tuning transformed the way the car handled corners. It would never feel like a Corvette, nor was it supposed to. Instead, Chevrolet achieved something surprisingly rare. The Impala SS remained comfortable enough for long-distance highway travel while feeling dramatically more controlled than almost every other American full-size sedan of its era. Large 17-inch aluminum wheels, enormous by early 1990s standards, wore wide 255/50 performance tires that provided levels of grip few buyers expected from such a large car. Combined with upgraded four-wheel disc brakes and faster steering response, the result was a sedan that inspired far more confidence than its dimensions suggested. Then there was the styling. Chevrolet wisely resisted the temptation to overload the car with unnecessary decorations. The production Impala SS looked remarkably similar to the concept that had captivated crowds in Detroit. Nearly all chrome trim disappeared, replaced by body-color details that created an almost monochromatic appearance. The front grille blended seamlessly into the nose, the lowered ride height gave the car a muscular posture, and subtle red Impala SS emblems quietly hinted that this wasn't an ordinary Caprice. It looked elegant rather than flashy. Mature rather than childish. Like a car that didn't need to prove anything. Inside, the philosophy remained the same. Instead of race seats and aggressive styling, Chevrolet focused on comfort. The cabin featured wide, supportive seats, generous amounts of space, thick carpeting, wood grain trim, and excellent visibility. Everything about the interior reflected traditional American luxury. 6 adults could travel comfortably thanks to the front bench seat available in early models, while the enormous trunk easily swallowed luggage for long family vacations. It was exactly the kind of practicality that had made full-size American sedans so popular for decades. Yet beneath that calm and comfortable personality lived something entirely different. The moment the driver pressed the accelerator, the Impala SS reminded everyone that it carried Corvette DNA beneath its understated bodywork. Automotive journalists quickly discovered that Chevrolet had created something far more interesting than anyone expected. During independent testing, the big sedan accelerated from 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 7 seconds, impressive performance for a car weighing well over 2 tons in the mid-1990s. More importantly, it didn't feel strained while doing it. The engine remained relaxed, the transmission worked seamlessly, and the suspension kept everything remarkably composed. Car and driver praised the Impala SS for delivering genuine driving enjoyment without sacrificing comfort, while Motor Trend admired Chevrolet for resisting gimmicks and focusing instead on creating a car with real character. Reviewers repeatedly described it as a sleeper, a car whose appearance understated its true performance. It didn't shout for attention like a Camaro or Mustang. It simply waited for the right moment to surprise whoever underestimated it. That understated personality would soon become one of the Impala SS's greatest strengths. Owners loved the fact that most people had no idea what they were looking at. To the average passerby, it looked like another large Chevrolet sedan. To enthusiasts, however, it represented something completely different. It was proof that Detroit still remembered how to build a proper rear-wheel drive V8 performance sedan. And before long, Chevrolet dealerships across America would discover that demand for the Impala SS was even stronger than anyone inside General Motors had predicted. The Chevrolet Impala SS wasn't the fastest car of the 1990s. It wasn't the most luxurious, and it certainly wasn't the most advanced. But none of that was the point. It represented something that has almost disappeared from today's automotive world, a full-size, rear-wheel drive American sedan powered by a naturally aspirated V8. Comfortable enough for a family road trip, yet powerful enough to remind you why people fell in love with American performance cars in the first place. More than 30 years later, the Impala SS isn't remembered because it chased trends. It's remembered because it stayed true to its identity. And sometimes, that's exactly what makes a car become a legend. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more automotive history documentaries. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think the 1994 to 1996 Chevrolet Impala SS was one of the last truly great American performance sedans, or is there another car that deserves that title? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.